Hi, super second graders. Hello, my readers. Today, I'm going to be talking to you about something that is important. It's actually maybe the most important thing about reading. And I just wanted to tell you guys, because I was thinking, I was taking a shower this morning. My students know that they need to be reading a lot. They know they need to be reading at their level. They know they need to be choosing their own books. But the most important thing about reading, or one of the most important things about reading, is this. I wrote it down right when I got out of the shower, so I wouldn't forget to tell you. It's this. Readers need to be careful and not get going faster and faster and forget to think about the story. Keeping tabs, stop, think, and retell events in order. I'm going to say that again. Readers need to be careful and not get going faster and faster and forget to think about the story. Keep tabs, stop, think, and retell events in order. So when you're reading and reading, you got your timer going, you're thinking, this is a great book, and you're reading the words. This is the growth as a second grader. This is why I love teaching second grade, because you're not just thinking about the words, you're thinking about the meaning and you're thinking about the story. And that's the most amazing thing about reading, is the thinking that you're doing. And so you need to make sure that you are thinking while you're reading and that you understand the story. Because I could pick up a medical journal that's written for doctors and I could read all of the words. But I really wouldn't be understanding them because that's really not my level. That's too hard for me. I don't know about it. And so if someone asked me to retell after I just read a medical journal, would I be able to do that? No, I wouldn't, because the thinking wouldn't be happening. I'd be like too worried about what those words actually mean. But when I'm reading the BFG or one of my favorite books and I'm thinking about the story and I'm going along and I'm questioning and making predictions and I have the story in my mind and I'm using all those strategies, and someone says, what's happening in your story right now? I would say, well, I would stop and I would think and I'd say this happened and then that happened and then the characters were doing this and then the problem was solved this way. And that would be my retell, and I would be showing you and myself that I understood the story. So that's what you guys need to do too. The most important part of reading. I know we have sneak peeks and we know how to read the book, but thinking and paying attention to what you are reading is the whole gist of reading. Making sure you understand the story, you understand the message the author's giving you, you're understanding the learning that's happening. So in order to keep track of that or keep tabs, this is what you need to do as a reader. After a few pages or at the end of the chapter, you need to do this. You need to stop, think, and retell the story in order. And if you can do that, that book is a good level for you and it shows you are thinking. If you can't do that, if you can't explain what was happening, I need you to close the book and find another one that you can, because that's really where you grow as a reader. Or maybe when you're reading, you're getting distracted by something else and the words are just kind of going through, but you're not thinking of them. Even though the book is right for you, maybe you need to think about, am I really paying attention to the words here? If this book is right for me, am I giving it the attention that I need to give to it? Am I thinking about what I'm learning, thinking about when I am reading? So there's a strategy for that. It's called stop, think, and retell. So I want you to do it as you are reading. And it could be a picture book, it could be a chapter book, but I'm going to model that to you with one of my favorite stories, one of my favorite books, favorite characters. Frog and Toad are friends. I know many of you, probably all of you, know Frog and Toad. These are story and pictures by Arnold LaBelle. And I'm going to choose to read the one Spring. It's not spring right now. We're getting towards fall. And I'm going to stop, think, and retell along the way. Spring. Frog ran up the path to Toad's house. He knocked on the front door. There was no answer. Toad, Toad, shouted Frog, wake up! It's spring! Blah, said a voice from inside the house. Now I know from my reading of Frog and Toad that Toad can be the one that needs to have a little push sometimes. He can be a little lazy. And Frog's always the one doing stuff. And because this is a series, I already know that about them. Toad, Toad, cried Frog. The sun is shining. The snow is melting. Wake up. I am not here, said the voice. So if you already know Frog and Toad, this kind of goes along with the other stories that we know of them. Frog walked into the house. It was dark. All the shutters were closed. Toad, where are you? Called Frog. Go away, said the voice from a corner of the room. Toad was lying in bed. He had pulled the covers over his head. Frog pushed Toad out of bed. He pushed him out of the house and onto the front porch. Are you imagining this? This dark house, Frog taking Toad and leading him out to the sunshine? Toad blinked in the bright sun. Help, said Toad. I cannot see anything. So here's the pictures of Toad in bed and Frog walking over to him. Don't be silly, said Frog. What you see is the clear, warm light of April, and it means that we can begin a whole new year together, Toad. Think of it, said Frog. We will skip through the meadows and run through the woods and swim in the river. In the evenings, we will sit right here on this front porch and count the stars. Frog's like me. He loves springtime. And many of our animals and birds and insects, they love springtime too. That's when the winter is over and they get to go out and be in the nice warm air, get some good food to eat. We know that about springtime and animals. You can count them, Frog, said Toad. I will be too tired. I am going back to bed. And look at the picture. There's Toad. He doesn't even want to wake up. And Frog's saying, it's going to be great. Toad went back into the house. He got into the bed and he pulled the covers over his head again. But Toad, cried Frog, you will miss all the fun. Listen, Frog, said Toad, how long have I been asleep? Well, you've been asleep since November, said Frog. Well then, said Toad, a little more sleep will not hurt me. Come back again and wake me up about 1/2 May. Good night, Frog. So I'm going to stop, I'm going to think, and I'm going to retell. I'm going to think about what I read already, about my connections and my predictions, the movie going on in my head, what I already know about Frog and Toad, and I'm going to retell in order. And I can go back and even look at the pictures or the pages again. It's not a test. So I know that Frog ran up to Toad's house and knocked on the door, and Toad didn't answer. And Frog went in, and it was all dark, and Toad was laying in bed, and Frog was excited. He said, hey, Toad, let's get up, and let's do spring, and let's look at all these fun things, like going through the meadow and swimming in the river and all the fun spring things. And then Toad at that point, what did he do? Oh, yeah, he said, hey, I'm still tired. You come back later. I'm going to get some more rest. So now I'm going to think, what's going to happen next? So I stopped, I thought, and I did a retell in order. And now I'm going to do a reflection. I'm going to think, the story's not over yet. I think Toad is still going to be laying in bed and Frog's going to try to get him up. And maybe what kind of strategy might he use to get Toad up? I'm not sure. Maybe he will open up all of Toad's windows. Maybe he will grab a swimsuit and try to get Toad using the swimsuit. I don't know. Let's see. But Toad said, Frog, I will be lonely until then. Toad did not answer. He had fallen back asleep. Frog looked at Toad's calendar. The November page was still on top. Frog tore off the November page. So they fell asleep in November. But do you remember? The beginning, they said it was April. It was April. So we have November, December, January, February, March, April. Those are a lot of months for Toad to be asleep. So he tore off the December page and the January page and the February page and the March page. He came to the April page and then he tore off the April page too. Do you remember Toad said that he didn't want to wake up until May? Then Frog ran back to Toad's bed. Toad, Toad, wake up. It's May now. What, said Toad? Can it be May so soon? Yes, said Frog. Look at your calendar. Toad looked at the calendar and May was on top. Why, it is May, said Toad as he climbed out of bed. Then he and Frog ran outside to see how the world was looking in the spring. So let's think. Frog found a strategy to get Toad out of bed. He showed him what month it is. I think he even tore off an extra month to get Toad up, because I think it was April at the beginning. And he took off all of the months from November to April, and then even took off April, so it would be May. And then he woke up Toad. It was really only just a few minutes later, but he showed Toad the new calendar, and Toad said, "Why? Okay, it's time to get up." And they ran outside, and they got to explore spring together. So Frog was pretty smart in having that strategy, and we do know that from reading our other books, Toad usually comes around to Frog's good ideas, and he's happy that he did. So I did too. Stop, think, and retell. And if I can't remember what happened, I either need to change my book or I need to change my thinking and make sure I understand what is happening in the story. So that is so important as we grow as a reader and we get our beanstalk branches and leaves nice and strong and tall. One very important thing for doing that is to make sure that you stop, think, and retell. I would like you to go to after you do your 20 minutes of reading or while you're doing your 20 minutes of reading, I would like you to go to Seesaw and I would like you to read a few pages either in a chapter book or in a picture book. Read a little bit, do a stop, do a think, and then do a retell. Tell me what's happening in your story and some thinking that's helping you to understand the author's message or what the author is trying to tell you in the story. What I really want to hear is just your thinking while you are reading. That's what I want to hear. That is one of the most important things you can do as a reader. So go ahead, read your 20 minutes, and along the way, go to Seesaw and tell me one of yours, I only need one, stop, think, and retell. I can hardly wait to hear what story you're reading and the thinking that you're doing while you're doing it. Good job, readers.